Hello, good Monday evening. This is Forecast Nathan Kitchens with a forecast update on this Monday evening. Taking a look at our current temperatures across the United States, courtesy of the Weather Channel. We do have some very cold temperatures across the central and eastern United States and across parts of the south. Current temperatures already in the single digits and below zero already showing up across parts of northeast Michigan and parts of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Very, very cold temperatures already, and it's going to get even colder throughout the night tonight. Across the south, we're finally dealing with some pretty cold temperatures all the way down into Florida. 48 right now in Jacksonville. 50s all the way down into south central Florida. 65 in Miami. And even there, we're going to see some pretty cold temperatures for Miami standards by tomorrow morning. So much of the country dealing with finally some winter-like temperatures across the eastern United States. Certainly, that's where we have seen the lack of hardly anything as far as cold weather. Certainly a lack of snow. And I'm here to tell you that the pattern is finally looking more promising for the winter weather fans. You have to love the way that things are looking, especially in the next week. We're talking about the potential for some very cold air across the central and into the eastern United States next week. Very cold temperatures, and we're still looking at possibilities for snow in areas as well. And lake effect snow will be a big lake effect snow will be likely as well in this setup as we head into next week. Typically we think of lake effect snow kind of winding down as we get later on in the winter, especially towards February a lot of years because the lakes usually freeze. But keep in mind, we're coming off one of the warmest Decembers on record, so the lakes are obviously ice-free. Lakes are quite warm. And when we get this very cold Arctic air coming in late this week into the next week, that cold, cold air mass going over those warm lakes, relatively warm lakes, lake temperatures are still in the mid-40s in many areas, creates steep lapse rates, instability, and there's going to be a good setup for lake effect snow along with the Arctic cold next week, and even across areas like the Ohio Valley, maybe even the Mid-South, up into the eastern U.S., not just lake effect snow, but potential for system snow coming in as well. We're still trying to see how the pattern's going to evolve, but the potential is there for some snow across areas that have not seen really anything yet as far as snow is concerned. And certainly the cold weather is pretty much a certainty for next week at this point. So let's take a look at temperatures tomorrow morning. As you step outside, it's going to be mighty, mighty cold out there. Well, if I had it up here a second ago, here we go. Sorry for that. Temperatures below zero tomorrow morning across upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, especially areas that got in on that lake effect snow. With snow on the ground, you will get very cold tonight. And across much of the country, dealing with cold temperatures, much of the country below the freezing mark. All the way down here near the Gulf Coast, where the freezing line is setting up tonight. 34 down here near Tallahassee. How about 56 all the way down to Tampa, and even South Central Florida getting on a pretty good chill for Florida standards. It's going to get pretty cold down there tonight, and pretty cold weather has settled in across the eastern United States for now. We're going to see a reprieve in those temperatures over the next several days. So before we get to the really cold air coming in next week, we're going to see a rebound in temperatures, actually getting back above average again by late week and into the early part of the weekend. But by this weekend, we're going to be watching that cold air coming in from Canada across the northern plains initially, and that will be spreading to the south and to the east as we head into early parts of next week. Let's take a look at the models here. Kind of time this out over the next couple of days. Get to the GFS, and I'll go to the precipitation here and show you how things will evolve over the next several days. We're going to see a series of storms coming into California. Good news for some much-needed rain for the drought areas and some mountain snow here across the Sierra Nevada on Tuesday. Here's our storm coming in tomorrow. Heavy snow across the Sierra Nevada. Some much-needed rain up and down, really up and down the west coast, looking active with some unsettled weather there. Overall, very quiet. Here's that cold area of high pressure in control here across the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic, controlling the eastern part of the U.S. with quiet weather and very cold temperatures as well. The high shift to the east. We'll get more of a return flow here across the central U.S. heading into the middle part of the week. Active weather remains across the west with a series of storms coming in. We're going to see the temperatures rebounding here across the eastern U.S. as we head into Thursday and Friday. There's that rain coming in. By Thursday night, evening, we have a low pressure here over Kansas, and this will be supplying rain across parts of the Mississippi Valley here and into parts of the Ohio Valley eventually as we head into Thursday night and Friday. There's that rain overspreading the area. A little bit of light snow here across parts of the northern plains here on the colder side of this low. This really isn't an overly impressive system, but there will be some snow to contend with here across parts of the, let's say, up here towards Lake Superior, those areas. But a lot of areas here will be warming up or just plain rain. Certainly across the southern Great Lakes here in the Ohio Valley, we're dealing with just plain rain here. Some scattered showers on Friday. System pulls to the northeast on Saturday. Maybe some snow here in North Maine, but most of the northeast will just be dealing with some showers here with those much warmer temperatures. But here's what we have coming in by late in the weekend. That's a 1042 millibar high coming into northern Montana. That is some very cold air showing up, and that cold air is going to be expanding and pushing to the east as we head into next week. Now here's where the questions come in. We have pretty good confidence on the cold weather coming in late weekend and next week. The questions remain on snow, especially across parts of the Mid-South and the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. The models today, the 12Z run of the GFS and the Canadian, and even the European to some extent, had a system coming in across the Ohio Valley with potential for maybe a snowstorm, several inches of snow. And I'll show you this here. This is the 12Z run of the GFS. I'm going to go back here. This was developing as that low pressure pushed to the north this weekend on Saturday. Here we are by Saturday afternoon, that low pressure moving to the northeast. The GFS, the 12Z run today, has a decent storm system developing here across the southern plains as we head into Saturday night. And the GFS indicates that system pushing to the northeast on Sunday. So as that front shifts to the south, we get the model here is indicating that we would get phasing of the polar jet stream with the subtropical jet stream. And so that would be a really good scenario for snow. A decent storm system with snow, precipitation overspreading that cold air mass that's invading into the area. So a perfect setup. We have the cold air coming in, moisture riding over that. Perfect setup for some snow here across parts of the Ohio Valley, maybe the Mid-South on Sunday into Monday. That's the GFS model from earlier today, and then that low pressure would push to the northeast, bringing snow up here into New England as well by early next week, during the day on Monday. And the Canadian model actually showed a fairly similar evolution of things here, Saturday night and into Sunday. There's that low pressure across the southern plains, moving up into the Ohio Valley on Sunday, and then pushing into the northeast by the time we get in the Monday, although the European or the Canadian obviously has a different track here over to low, showing plenty of warm air coming in ahead of it, but mainly rain here across New England, at least initially. You can see that very, very cold air coming in behind that low pressure. By Monday night and Tuesday, that cold air just absolutely invades, and it gets brutally cold towards the middle of next week across the eastern seaboard here. There's still a lot of questions how this is going to play out. We have no type of consistency. Even looking at the ensembles, we don't get a whole lot of help right now. A lot of questions about how this is going to play out. Given the pattern, the chance is there. I will say it's not, the GFS and the Canadian both show a similar type of storm system coming in behind that initial storm. We get that front push to the south, another system moving along it. Big questions about how this is going to play out, whether we get a storm system with we can get phasing of the subtropical jet and the polar jet those two jets to interact with each other and get a sizable storm system, or will they'll not be phasing, and will the storm stay weak and stay much less amplified into the south? But here's the GFS, the model run from this afternoon, showing a completely different situation. Remember the run from, let me go back here. The run from earlier today, I just showed that big storm here across the southern plains, pushing into the Ohio Valley with a snowstorm by Sunday. Here's the latest run. Shows no phasing of the subtropical and polar jet stream. So while we end up here with just a weak system pushing on by here across parts of the Mid-South, again, just a very weak wave pushing by here with the cold air really invading in. So the latest, the 18Z GFS was much less impressed with any snow chance with that wave coming in. But just keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty over the next few days. The models are going to have a really rough time with the patterns, so just keep that in mind for all of you looking at the models. With this much Arctic air invading the U.S. and an active southern jet stream, this is going to give the models plenty of fits and, well, plenty of trouble, if you will, and also throw in the fact that we have a escalating, we have a decreasing southern oscillation index. That's going to add more kind of chaos to things here, if you will, into the mid and long range forecast. So just kind of keep that in mind. But heading into next week, we have pretty good, or very good agreement that it's going to get very cold across the United States next week. Here's a look at our temperature anomalies on the GFS late this week, and here we are by Sunday. There's that brutally cold air across the central plains, and by the time we get into next week, that cold air begins to push into the eastern United States. This is looking at the temperature anomalies, basically the departure from average. And you can see the worst of the cold centered here across the central United States, but really plenty of cold weather expected next week. And looking at our temperatures here from the model, just for fun, showing you how cold it could get. Here we are by Sunday afternoon. We're talking about below zero highs here across much of the northern plains and the upper Midwest. And that cold air continues to invade and push eastward by the time we get to Monday. Highs only in the teens, possibly to low to the 20s across the Ohio Valley. Single digits up here, possibly in Chicago. Struggling to get out of single digits for highs by Monday, according to the GFS. And obviously showing a pretty cold week next week. We have very good agreement that next week is going to be some pretty cold air across the central and eastern United States. And looking at the Climate Prediction Center, we have good confidence here, below average temperatures by late this week and into next week. So I'm going to have an update probably tomorrow with more details on the latest thinking on how the pattern will evolve over the next few days. Just wanted to get this update out tonight to kind of initially show you what we're looking at over the next several days. Winter weather fans out there, things are looking more in your favor, so some good news in that regard. Now, I'll wrap it up for this forecast update. Thanks for tuning in, and take care.